Thanks very much, Nadia and Francisca, and thanks. It's wonderful to be back at Interest and here in Maputo. Those are my conflicts. The world is young, crowded, and unequal. There are about 2 billion 10 to 24-year-olds in the world, and most of them live in developing countries. So who are the women in our region? Well, we've heard a lot already at this meeting about their vulnerabilities. There's about 200 million of them. Many of them don't finish secondary school. Many don't get into gainful employment. And of course, they have all of these sexual reproductive health risks as well. Delving into that, really, there are many family planning needs that are unmet. For some reason, we don't think LARC should be used in this population. There is really no reason for that. Mental health issues are many and really unserviced. And of course, I've already highlighted the impact of education. It can be both protective, and when with poverty, we find young women leave school and are really even more at risk because of this. Suffice to say, this results in really multiple risks for people in our region, with nearly 2/3 of live DALYs in adolescence occurring in adolescence in multi-burden countries. And unsafe sex is a leading cause of DALYs in this age group. So of the 2 billion adolescents globally, about 4,000 die every day, mostly because of preventable causes, mostly on our continent. So what can we be doing about that? And really, it is about them falling through cracks and missing in the data. And really, there are these 3 pillars we need to be thinking about: mental health, sexual reproductive health, and then economic empowerment and their futures. All of this coming together to create greater risks leading to morbidity and mortality. And it was said superbly in these Lancet series and commissions that adolescence is a time in life that harbors many risks and dangers, but also, and this is the message, and we heard it this morning in a great panel just before lunch, that there are also great opportunities for sustained health and well-being. Yet this is where 4 countries in our region actually kind of pan out in terms of the Global Youth Wellbeing Index. If you're not familiar with this, go and have a look at these. These have now been done, 3 of them over time, give you a good, window into how youth are doing in our region. So adolescence is a developmental transition, biological, behavioral, and social, and all people pass through the sexual reproductive health journey, much of it happening during the years that are adolescent, giving us opportunities to say, where can we reach these young people? So again, how do we provide mental health support? How do we bring in sexual reproductive health services? And how do we shore up their futures? I think it is important to recognize that sexual reproductive health is a state of physical, emotional, mental, and social well-being, not the absence of disease. And I think if we walk away with this message alone, we will have achieved a lot this afternoon. There are many things we can be doing, and I draw your attention to this systematic review in 2016. Now, I don't expect you to read this, but there is a multitude of things that have shown will benefit individual adolescents if we achieve them. The big question is, can we reach these young people? And that is the task for today. And we know that not only will it benefit them today, but it will benefit them as adults and as future parents, the so-called triple dividend. So, how? Where do we start? Well, we know the adolescents today are not the adolescents of old. They have an expectation about communication. They expect transparency. Collaboration is obvious. Web-based, self-learning approaches, the digital divide is one that they've conquered. They're comfortable within a diverse society. They expect innovation. This is where we fail them a lot in the health sector. And they're fearless to take on issues. First and foremost, we heard it this morning, I cannot say it enough, we need them in the room, at the table, in the equation, not tokenistically, but in meaningful engagement for inclusion, co-design, co-creation, and input, as well as critical review of what we're doing. They need to be leaders who take choices and exert their power in a control and in a movement. And this means we move beyond harm reduction to affirmation and well-being. It normalizes behavior that is towards well-being and sexual health. We do need to engage these young people because their lives are one which is not medical, right? It's not the medical discussions of risk. They perceive themselves to be healthy. They live social and connected lives, and so their everyday prevention, treatment, and care must be easy, hassle-free. It should be presented as a lifestyle choice. So when I ask young people as well as my peers, they tell me these are the important ingredients of engagement: relationship, support from home, accessibility and convenience, ease of use, a tailored response where choice is fundamental, but it's fun and funky. There's no stigma or bad feeling, and often needs to be within a gain-framed situation. So what do I mean by gain framing? And this is a useful, although old publication from '97 that describes the power of gain framing. In other words, presenting what can be achieved through a positive lens rather than a risk-type lens. And this, we know, is far more persuasive for young people, in fact, all people, but particularly young people. So we can even make condoms appealing for youth. And I draw your attention to this extraordinary NGO led by young people from Germany who have achieved making condoms actually very accessible and very okay. So there's just one example of what can be done. So what about the where? And this speaks to the differentiated service delivery we heard about this morning. Again, can't emphasize this enough. Putting the client in the center and saying, how do we organize services around this person? So we have to say, where do we find adolescents? And this life course approach says we'll find them in the digital space, we'll find them amongst their peers, we'll find them at school, we'll find them a little bit in employment, and then we'll find them amongst their families of origin, and then within their communities, of course. Not in clinics, okay? And that's very real. Adolescents are not in our clinics. Nevertheless, that is our structure. And so many of the described platforms actually do focus on clinics. Not a lot about community-based, not much about social media, and not much about social kind of employment, social protection type structures. So again, here are these young women. They are going through their puberty, menarche, and into their adult lives. We can find them in school, and we can find them in tertiary situations, in job opportunities. We need to look for them outside of our traditional services. We know that there are very fundamental barriers to services and care. This again has been well described for individual, healthcare system, and other structural barriers. I highlight here legal consent issues. Throughout our continent, there are real barriers around legal consent that need to be taken on. And I really challenge everyone in this room to think more carefully about that. So let's focus in on those clinics, because that often is what we have. And we heard a lot today about adolescent-friendly care. So this means we need management buy-in, appropriate spaces, appropriate referral pathways, and information. But it also requires youth-friendly care. And we know what that is. We've been told many, many times by young people what they need in terms of their youth-friendly care. But we often fail them. This is a study that was conducted some time ago now in Malawi to show that when you supply the adolescent-friendly care, and in the fourth clinic case, a little bit of cash, you see an extraordinary uptake in terms of services. So just supplying youth-friendly care can make a big difference. And again, young people have been telling us for a long time they need those integrated services. They would like to have their own space. They need to feel welcomed and prioritized. Quick turnaround, no queues, no shouting, more answers, and clear instructions. And this, again, is about rekindling our empathy as healthcare workers towards young people. This word integration we throw about a lot, but it is fundamental to good adolescent care in our services. And when we combine a number of sexual reproductive health needs, we see, again, better results. So combining family planning and PrEP can make a big difference. Let's move now quickly to school. What can we do about school health programs? Very vexed, very problematic, because we often are kept out of schools when we want to come in with certainly sexual reproductive health. But we know school is protective, it's a captive audience. We can think about what we can do in terms of reaching adolescents within the school structure. And again, I can't emphasize enough how important school is in terms of protection for young people. We have had some programs. In South Africa, we're rolling out the HPV vaccine. It has been highly feasible and very acceptable in our schools. It gives us an example of what we can do. This is one study which offered sexual reproductive health after school, and people had to go off-site to get their services, and the study failed. It did not work. This is another study from India where they showed very clearly that if the services was provided by lay people, by peers, it was much better than if it was provided by teachers. So another important message there. In this study, Goals for Girls, we took the services into the school and we offered it with peers in a sort of sporting kind of framework. And what we found was that the near peers were very important. The girls really valued safe spaces, and again, it was highly implementable, although we needed a lot of flexibility within the school structure. So different schools could give different amounts of time. We've taken actual services into the school, and again, we found that this is very feasible, where there is a lot of negotiation with the school to say, can this be done? And when we do this, again, very rewarding in terms of uptake of services. Let's turn now to the community at large. And here, mobile units have been a particular community-based structure we have used a lot. We've discovered that we can integrate a lot of services in a mobile clinic, and again, this is very feasible. We've gone beyond the mobile to say, can we Uber some of these biomedical interventions by using courier-type systems, and particularly during difficult times like the COVID lockdown, this has become very popular. So we're now thinking about differentiated prevention delivery, and I think this is really important, so much so that we have gone to young people to say, what is it that you need in order to get prevention to you, specifically PrEP? And what they've told us is that it's access, access, access. It's less important what the PrEP modality is. What is important is access. We want it in pharmacies. We want it in the mall. We want it in our homes. We want it in the mobiles. And so we've designed a study now called Fast PrEP, where we initiate in a mobile or in the clinic, but they can access their maintenance from a variety of different uptake spots. And we're doing this in 25,000 young people to say, can we scale up PrEP when we come in this very differentiated way, offering youth-friendly services in the following way to make sure that they get the tailored approach and they can exercise their choice as well as have integration. And you can see that across the board, these various spokes are working very well. So they have choices for delivery and they have choices now for PrEP. So we'll be able to put this matrix together where young people will be able to choose the prevention that they want. Can't emphasize enough how important marketing is. People do not just come to your services, you have to bring them to your services, drive them into your services. And here, social media, of course, plays an enormous role. So all the ways are very important, via school, via peers, via community, and of course, social media. It needs investment. It doesn't just happen. You've got to throw money at it and skills. So we've brought in a marketer who normally sells champagne, and we've told her she must sell PrEP in the same way, because that's what I think it will take. What do we need to provide? I think we now have a package. It's not brain science here. You know what we need to offer these young women, what is their package. And we should not exclude now non-communicable diseases. And so we, again, have moved now to offering a health park to see if this will make a difference, gym, to see can we add also non-communicable diseases in order to have these sexual reproductive health services picked up. So again, think outside of the box. Can we provide holistic care? Lastly, family, very important. This is a study looking at older sisters and moms, bringing them into the equation to say, can they help young people when you engage them right from the beginning? And so this study is, I think, showing beautifully that there's better uptake of sexual reproductive health services and better results in mental health when family members who matter a lot to these young women are included. After this morning session, I'm not going to dwell on young people living with HIV, because I think this was done beautifully, but here we've shown we can also Uber antiretrovirals to people, and we're very excited about long-acting injectables to see if choice, again, will be important for these young people. Peers is another final very important group to think about, the power of peers for adolescent girls and young women. The systematic review showed how important they are, particularly for risk groups. There is a beautiful systematic intervention happening at the moment that's showing the longer exposure to peers is better. It should be in private spaces, and linkage beyond that is also very important. So, my final piece here is really about poverty, how important thinking about futures and employment can be. This is a study where we offered a cash transfer based on an empowerment program, just to draw attention. These young women who were over the age of 19, under the age of 24, really have constrained choices. 40% had no income to the household at all, most of them going hungry. And they have many competing priorities, last of which is coming into our health services. And so, you know, again, as Lucy Kluver has shown, when there is money coming into the household, we do see better outcomes. And this systematic review showing the importance of social protection. So I want you to be thinking about these cash plus programs. In that study of Women of Worth, where we offered the empowerment program, we had a 60-fold increased uptake and retention in the program because we offered a small cash transfer to get those young women to the services they need. And I know Rashida's study in Zim, this is also very important to have a means, a social value to bring people into our services and make sure that they're there. I know I've covered a lot. This is probably the only slide you need to worry about. The building blocks to effective prevention. Ensure meaningful engagement and involvement. It's about relationships between you and this client, between that client and their peers. Instill confidence. Pay attention to their concerns. We heard about it this morning. They are people who need to be heard. Enable their environment, so it needs to be tailored, decentralized, integrated, and where possible, have peers in the support structure. Market your health promotion. Throw money at it. It is not going to just happen. You've got to go out there and make sure they know that it is beneficial to them in a gain-framed way to be coming into the services you have on offer. Address the barriers which may need a small cash transfer. I want you to think about that. And address the biomedical components with choice, really as the last brick. Often it's our first brick. It should almost be the last brick once you've built the enabled environment. And so we really have a wonderful array of opportunities to meet and engage young women and girls. Don't leave boys out of this, guys. I was asked to talk about girls, but I don't want you to forget about young boys. They become men. Those men infect these young women. So it's absolutely, to say it again, we really do not want to forget about young men. They fit into this also in a beautiful way. And we need to reach our adolescents because it is a triple dividend. Healthy adolescents today will give us healthy adults tomorrow, will give us healthy parents in the future. And with that, I thank you all for your attention.